I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, and as I was growing up and getting into the car scene, there were certain people in the Northwest who were really the big shots, the guys that we looked up to. They were really old guys. Like when I was 16, they were like 19 or so. They were really old guys. Well, one of these guys, who apparently I still look up to, is Mr. Bob Davidson. Bob, how are you doing?
I'm doing very fine, thank you.
You have cars over the years, over the decades that I've paid attention to, and they are always customized mildly, but they're always really tasteful and traditional. How is it that you have such a good eye for that?
Well, as a kid, I grew up in the 50s, and I was looking at all the hot rod books, and I was wishing I had a car, and of course, back then it was hard to even attempt to build one, and it was the style that registered in my mind at that time. George Barris and some of the custom shops across the country and the work they were doing, and seeing some of the work that Von Dutch got me into the field that I got into in pinstriping. It's amazing, I look back at that, and I have a lot of photos that explain that and things of that nature. It's unbelievable.
You are one of the premier pinstripers on the West Coast and through the whole country, but you've been fairly moderate on this. I don't see it's not covered head to foot with pinstriping.
Well, that's the 50s, see. When they did start striping, it was very moderate, very tasteful, and I tried to follow that tradition with this car. Bring it out of the 50s with the visor, the spotlights, lower the car, the wide white walls. That's the way it was in the 50s for the person that didn't have a lot of money to build a full-blown chop channel lead sled,
Your Buick here, what's the running gear on it?
It's a straight 8. It says 3-speed on the column, and it's been lowered by Riviera Springs to give the low-down look. And pretty much it's the Buick of that era at that time that the rich man bought, so to speak.
And good for you for leaving the straight 8 in there.
Absolutely. It's a tour car, and it'll go anywhere. And it's all been rebuilt, and it runs beautifully. I have no problems with this.
The Northwest has such a strong car community and such a large car community, the Pacific Northwest. You have been here since, it started. You really are one of the legends in the Northwest. What have you seen over that period of time, from when it all started to now the traditional rat rod, whatever, are coming back? What have you noticed over that length of time?
Well, over the length of time, a lot of guys were building custom cars and having hot rods, and they were doing the expensive paint jobs on them and things that were in style at that time. And now we're going back to the era where the rat rod's coming in, because we didn't have a lot of money. We couldn't build the hot rod we wanted as youngsters. And as we get along in life and later in life, and our families are growing up and gone, and we want to flash back to what we thought we were trying to do as a kid or a youngster and build that car today. So if you look at the age some of these people are, they're not the youngsters, but yet they're setting a new trend with this. It's just amazing. They can use anything they want on these things and slam them down on the ground, to make them look good and eye appealing. But that's the way it was, back in those days. And we're doing it in our own little garage or out behind the barn with what tools we had at that time and not a lot of talent. It's amazing.
Well, you made up for the talent in a short period of time. Bob, thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show.